It was the end of a busy day. The engines had been working hard. They were feeling pleased and proud, except for Henry. He was feeling ill. Thomas asked. Teased Thomas. Hissed Henry. But Emily saw that Henry was leaving a puddle of water behind. She was worried. The next morning, the Fat Controller had arrived. Cried Thomas and Percy. Henry watched the engines puff away. He didn't feel well at all. Henry muttered. He was leaving water everywhere as he was chuffing towards the coaling plant. When Emily saw this, she was more worried than ever. Then Thomas and Percy overtook Henry. Percy tooted. Henry chuffed miserably. Teased Thomas. By the time Thomas and Percy had reached the coaling plant, they had a naughty plan, said Thomas. Added Percy. The yard manager agreed. Meanwhile, Emily was talking to the Fat Controller, replied the Fat Controller. By the time Henry got to the coaling plant, Thomas and Percy had already left. Moaned Henry, said his driver. Henry chuffed heavily with his long line of trucks. Encouraged his driver, but it was no use, for Henry had ground to a halt. Just then, Emily arrived. Moaned Henry. Henry's fireman uncoupled the trucks. Emily switched tracks and coupled to Henry. Wheezed Henry. Emily and Henry wheezed into the docks, said the Fat Controller. Then he spoke to Henry. Thomas and Percy felt quite ashamed, said Thomas. Added Percy. Said the Fat Controller sternly. Said Emily. Emily smiled. Poor Henry.